drinking coffee.
What's funny about you drinking coffee?
Because I always start this with the cup in my mouth.
Oh, but actually, I actually made yourself a coffee. You didn't make
No,
me
yours is
a
too
coffee.
complicated. That takes too long.
So I don't get a coffee.
No.
Fine. Okay.
You snooze, you lose.
You snooze, you lose. Hello and welcome to the Naked Couple podcast with myself, Lee Taylor, and Aga Zimbrushka. And today we're going to be talking about my new book, aren't we?
Look at the smile.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm going to be a published author.
Not long now.
Not long now. No. It's all I need is the back cover to be designed and me sign off on it. And then I think it's one more read. One more read.
How many
through.
times have you read that
Oh,
book?
so many times. So many times. There was a couple of little amendments I wanted last time I read it, and I've just got to do that. And I've got to make sure they've done it correctly, or to my liking. And then it will go to print.
Oh.
And I will have a physical hard copy of my book.
You know what? Whenever you talk about that book, your face lights up so much. You've got the actual smile, not like a smile.
Yeah, it was a journey, wasn't it? It was a real journey, and I think there was many times where I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to publish it, but now I've read it through, and I love it, and it's just the thought of actually holding it like a real life book in my hands makes me smile.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah,
so you mentioned that it was a journey. Why don't you talk us through that journey, where the idea came from for writing the book, from starting thinking about it to the actual point that it's nearly ready to be published?
Okay, I wanted to write a book years ago, and I wrote various books years ago.
You never told me that.
Yeah, just not completed books.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote documents for books that sat on my laptop and was going to one day be a book, and as we always know, and as we always say within our coaching business, there's no such day as one day. You can't go into life thinking one day I'm going to do that, because it doesn't exist. You've got to be specific. But it was always one day, all of this work I've put in is going to be a book. And then nothing happened, and it just sat there. And most of the stuff I wrote about, I've forgotten. I don't even know where the documents are now. And I think it was when we got locked down, wasn't it? I said to you, I got the time now. There's no excuses.
No. We were talking, and you said to me, I always wanted to write a book.
Yeah.
And I looked at you and said, why don't you do it?
Yeah.
Now it's the time.
Now is the time. We got the time. There's no excuses. Or I got the time. There's no excuses. So I made that decision. I'm going to write it. And we set ourselves a deadline, which actually come and went. I never made the deadline. I kind of made the deadline, and I didn't make the deadline. I got it submitted to the publisher in time, but it wasn't published in the right time because of things I wanted to change and things I wasn't happy with. And it wasn't the book I wanted it to be, and I'll talk about that. But yeah, I made that decision at the start of lockdown. I think this is going to be a long-term thing. I've got the time to do it. You pushed me to do it. You give me the confidence to do it. And I did it. And I come into this office every morning, 5 a.m. I formed my writing habit. And before everybody was up, I would come in, I would get my coffee. I had a little routine. I had my coffee. Annabelle would make me this little jar of positive thoughts that I've actually got in my gym now, that I used to come in and I used to open one of them and I used to read it, and it used to put me in a really lovely mood. And then I would sip my coffee, fire the laptop up, and I would just write. And I would write for a good hour or 2 hours sometimes, depending on how I felt. Never less than an hour.
What about the content of the book and the ideas of what to write about? Did you have that in place before you even made a start, or did you just...
No, there was structure to it. There was exercises I went through to write out the chapters, headings, write out a brief description of the content, a brief description of the lessons within the chapters, because it's a business book. Well, it was a business book, a step-by-step how to build a small business book, giving lots of ideas and insights and how to do that, because it's what I've done. So I literally thought about, okay, how many words am I going to write? How many chapters is it going to be? How many words in each chapter do I need to hit? Because you can't have one chapter 500 words and another chapter 20,000 words. It's not consistent. It's not going to read well. So I thought about the structure of the book. I thought about what I wanted the book to be and the lessons behind the book. And then I had my outline, and then I just needed to fill in the blanks and write.
And how did you find writing?
I actually found it really, really easy. I was in a part of a writing group. There was a lot of us that met. I think it was every week. I'm sure we had a call every week, and we would discuss our targets for the next week and how much words we was going to write, and we kept each other accountable. The idea was we keep each other accountable, and we used to submit a spreadsheet to how many words, and we used to have a goal. So we was all roughly looking about 40,000 words for the book, and every week we knew we'd get closer to that goal. And I was always top of that chart. There was never ever a week where I wasn't the top. I literally wrote more than anybody. Sometimes I wrote more than the whole group put together. I just wrote so much because I know so much. I have so much knowledge, and it wasn't me making anything up. It was me just writing out what I knew, and it just flowed. It just flowed. I never ever once got what they called like the writer's block. I never once couldn't think of an idea. I never once had anything like that. People would come in and say, I can't do it. I've got out my habit. I've hit a block. I've hit a wall. I just don't know what to write. And I was like, I don't get it. I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe I'm just a bit of a freak or something. Because everyone was like, how do you do this? And I was like, I don't know. It just comes. But I've never had a problem communicating. I've never had a problem talking. I've never had a problem.
Oh, I know that.
Excuse me. I've never had a problem writing or anything like that. Words come to me easily, and just writing them come to me so easily. Now, that was great in many ways because it gave me momentum. You know, when I first wrote, I thought, wow, that was easy. Boom, I can do this. I got that confidence. I can keep going. And I just knew if I did it for so many days consistently and wrote maybe 1,000 words a day in 40 days, I would have that book complete.
So if we fast forward a little bit, what happened when the book was completed, the first draft?
It was shit.
I'm glad you're the one who said it.
It was fucking awful.
I could not bring myself to tell you the truth for the first time.
It was the worst book I've ever written in my life. It was just crap. It was. And it was, the lessons was good.
Yeah.
You know, what the content was kind of good and you could read through it. And because I know what I know, that makes kind of sense. But to someone who doesn't understand, it was a hodgepodge of information that didn't really flow. And it left people confused. Excuse me. And the publisher were brilliant. You know, the publisher was like, you know, before you publish, you have to go through this process because we've got to make sure it's the best book it can possibly be. So you have to send it out to people who can read it and give you feedback, and it's got to be this type of person. So we narrowed it down to a few people. You was one.
Although you were told not to give it to
I was told not to give it to you, actually. Yeah, they said don't give it to you. Not because of who you are, but they just said don't give it to your partner. They'll be too nice and they won't want to give you the truth. You know, so you gotta think about who you give it to. So I sent it out to a few people that I sort of trusted, and I didn't want to send it out. I read it first and I thought, I really don't want to send this out because I don't like it. I'm not happy with it. Yes, I've got my 40,000. Actually, I had more than 40. I had 60,000 words. I wrote so much. I was 20,000 words over what I was supposed to be. So I knew I had to condense it down. I knew I had to strip it back. And I was prepared to do that. But when I read it, I was just so disappointed with it. I didn't believe in it. I didn't think it had the right message. I didn't think it was going to be useful to anybody. And there was a part of me that thought, well, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm being super critical. Maybe I can't see it for what it is because I'm blinkered. I don't know. I just had all these thoughts in my mind. But I sent it out hoping for the best, expecting the worst. And no one really said anything really derogative about it, but no one was really complimentary about it. And a few people were like, I can kind of see what you're aiming for, but it's so confusing. One person was, this is just not good enough, kind of thing. I couldn't care less what you've written here. And that was fine. You know, I expected things like that. Another person was like, you know, not from a business background. So I wanted this particular person to read it because they wasn't coming from a business background. That was important. And they was like, I think it's really good. There's loads of content in it, but I don't understand any of it. And I kind of saw why. And I just looked at it. And I had a decision to make. And it was like, what do I do? Do I just condense it down now and then send it out again and try to get it to fit the tick the boxes maybe, or do I just rip it up and start again?
And what happened next?
I ripped it up and started again. I didn't have the energy for it. I didn't believe in it. I just thought, when I looked back at that book I wrote, I thought, I'm trying to be someone else here. I thought, this isn't me talking. This is probably more my business mentor talking than me. This is me trying to be him and not me, and me trying to give lessons that in some cases I'm not even that confident on myself, because yeah, I'm good at business. I'm good at building little businesses and I know what to do, but I'm not good at building every part of the business. And there was parts of that book that I was talking about that didn't sit well with me. I felt like I was bullshitting a bit, and I think it come across in the writing, and I think it come across that yes, it was the information was there, and if you could work it out and piece it together, you could make use of it. But who wants to buy a book and then work it all out and piece it together? You want a book that's just going to show you how to do it.
I remember you put the 5-phase calculator, which we did with the clients in the past, which is an amazing exercise, and it just gives the clients this wow factor. But the way the instructions were written
didn't make sense.
No,
it didn't work.
Confusing.
It was confusing, and in I've never been very good at structure. I like to go with the flow a lot, and with that you follow that process. And whilst I know how to follow the process if I'm doing it, talking to people about that process is so mind-numbingly boring to me. I couldn't get the passion into the writing to show people this is great and this is really what you could be doing within your business to really understand how to increase your volume. And it just, I don't know, it read like it was a kind of bit of an instruction manual, but it was almost like an IKEA instruction manual of how to put a cabinet apart. I had to put a cabinet together with no page numbers on, and it was just thrown. And you then had to pick up the pages and try to piece it all together to make it fit. And that's what I felt the book was. So I felt it was like me trying to be someone else and making a really bad job of it.
Well, you mentioned that you made a decision to start again, and you mentioned that you like to go with the flow. What's the story behind the second book? I kind of thought, like, when I wrote it, I thought, there's so many of these kind of books on the market anyway. How to do this, ABC. How to do this in 10 steps. Follow this, blah, 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 blah. Do I want another book like that? Why don't I write a book that's actually true? It's a true story. It's my story of how I went from literally leaving school with no qualifications or very little qualifications to building reasonably big businesses, to losing a lot, to making a lot, to losing a lot, to making a lot. Document that journey,
But don't document the journey in do this in this part, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you'll be successful. Tell the story as it happened. Tell it literally raw. Be honest. Be vulnerable. Be upfront, and admit in writing every bloody mistake I made, so people can look at that and feel this is an entertaining story, and it shows the mistakes, but it also shows how you got out of the mistakes. And the book is a story of my journey, documenting all the mistakes and the successes, how I turned the mistakes around and what I did to create the successes. And at the end of every chapter, there's a little summary with a few lessons there that I learned along the way that will be valuable to people moving forward. And it doesn't just document the business side of things. We're not all about building businesses for people. We can build businesses for people. That's easy to do. But what we found over the years is, in many cases, it's not the business that needs help, it's the business owner that needs help. And I know it certainly was with me. And I think that's why business coaching didn't work that well with me, because my business coach tried to fix the business and tried to work on the business, where actually I probably needed more work on myself. So to get to that proper mental state to want to do things.
Mm-hmm.
So with this book, it talks about the mental struggles I had, the physical health problems I had, and how I turned that around. Because I think that is just as important when you're building a lifestyle that you want to be proud of, you're building a business you want to be proud of, you're building a family you want to be proud of, you're building relationships you want to be proud of. You've got to look after yourself, and you've got to improve yourself. You've got to develop, and you've got to be mentally in a good place. You've got to be physically in a good place. You've got to have your ducks in a row and everything planned and organised, and you've got to have routines. And you can't always get there if you don't feel good about yourself, if you've got so much shit going on and you don't know how to turn it around. So I talk about all the shit that went on. I talk about all the problems I had. I talk about how my marriage broke down. I talk about how my relationship with my daughter suffered. I talk about how my people I employed took advantage of me, how the businesses suffered, how I took on too much, how I spun too many plates, how I couldn't keep it all going, how it all come crashing down. I talk about all of that. Excuse me. And then I talk about how I learned from all of that and how I come out of all of that and changed it all around, and how I went on. And the title of the book is Be the Man, and it's a journey of me becoming this really, really scared and failing person trying to keep everything together, to being the person that talked about problems, was open and honest with people, who worked out how to ask for help, get the help he needed to turn things around, and then actually create a nice business and businesses and a nice lifestyle as well. And it's a much better journey. And because it's real, because it's my life, it flows. And it's a story. It's not an instruction book.
No, it's 100% authentic, and I remember how fast you wrote it, and it took you less than 2 weeks to get all the chapters written down. Knowing that it was your real story and you took the mask off. We talk about the naked couple with the girl taking the mask off. How did you find writing the chapters?
I found it emotional sometimes. I found it easy. Again, I found it really easy to write. I think I wrote the book in 2 weeks.
Less than that.
I think it's less than 2 weeks, wasn't it? It was, you know what, I'm going to write it completely from scratch. You said about doing my story. My friend Alan said about doing my story. I was thinking along them lines as well. And when you two guys said, look, this book is really shit, let's be honest, but you've got a great story here and this is what you should be telling, I thought, yeah, I'm going to write my story. And you guys give me that courage to write it. So I then went, okay, how am I going to, I went back to the drawing board. It's right, I'm going to start again. I'm going to forget about that. And I'm going to go through the same process that I went through initially, and I'm going to write it as a story. So I'm going to just write in a different style. So again, form the same writing habit, laid it all out, and come down. And because there wasn't really any research to be done, I knew it was my life. So I wasn't thinking about how should I explain this, how should I explain that, researching how to do this, researching how to do that. It was just, okay, I remember on this day this happened. Dun 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 dun. And I just boom, I was doing like a chapter a day. It was just ridiculous.
I was getting so excited, sorry to interrupt, because you used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do the writing, and you would email me every chapter.
Yeah.
And the first thing I would do, check the email, is there a chapter to read? And even though I wasn't a part of your story for majority of the book, I would get really emotional because I could connect exactly with what you were going through, with the emotions that were bothering you and everything that was going on at the time.
The emotions I went through are generally typical emotions a lot of men go through, and especially a lot of men who have businesses and are in relationships and have children. We all experience the same things. We don't always just talk about them. So I've talked about that. So because it's real, and because you know me, and because you kind of know a little bit about the past from before we met, I imagine it was emotional for you. And it was me. There was times where I read it back and I would get a little bit tearful because I'd be thinking of things, especially with Annabelle. You know, I'd think about how things affected her, and it would bring back sometimes really painful memories. And it would bring back painful memories about when I went through my separation and stuff like that. And I can remember there's one story in there, one scene in there where I wake up in my flat and I'm on my own for the very first time. And I hadn't been on my own for years, and my daughter's not there. I'm gone from a big 4-bed detached house, you know, in a lovely area to a 1-bedroom flat. And I looked around and I couldn't stop crying that day. It was like, what the hell has happened to me? And I write about that. And when I read it back and I remembered that day, it was really emotional. And I think it will be emotional for the readers as well, because although it's not their life, they will, in many cases, be going through exactly the same things, and it will resonate with them. And hopefully, at the end of the chapter, when the summary is there, they will see, if they keep going, if they keep trying, things will get better, and there'll be a few lessons that they can pick up on to try to change things around.
Tell us a bit about the title, Be the Man. How does that link with the book and the content?
Well, when I started coaching originally, it was all about business. Just business. That's all I really wanted to do. Business. And we had clients, and I wouldn't say I hated it, but I never enjoyed it massively, just working on people's business. Because again, I think I was trying to be someone else. I was trying to be this business coach that goes in and helps people build their businesses, and that's all I do. And when I was working with a lot of clients, I'm seeing them saying the same things that I went through and having the same problems. But we're not there to talk about them. We're there to talk about the business. We're there to talk about the cash flow. We're there to talk about the budget, actual forecast. We're there to talk about the accounts, how to do the marketing, all of this stuff. Yeah, the orbit map, all of this stuff. But really, the business owner knew all that stuff, but wasn't really implementing it in because he's worried about his lifestyle. He's worried about his kids. He's worried about, the relationship. He's worried about having enough time with a family. So we started to look at it. What are we doing here? Where are we going with this? Yeah, we can help someone fix their business, but there's all this shit over here that's not being fixed. And what's the point in having a business that's got £1 million turnover and you got 120 grand a year in income if you're not enjoying any of it? I've been there, seen it, done it. No, it's not worth it. You've got to enjoy all this stuff as well. So we started to look at how can we look at a man's lifestyle. So it's not just all about business. You know me, I was all about business. It was, you'd say, what are we going to do for fun at the weekend? I don't know, we could do a course,
Let's do some planning.
let's go for a meal and let's plan out the next 5 years.
Have you got your notebook? Even yesterday, we went out. The first thing, have you got your notebook and the pen?
That was because I was coaching you.
We agreed to do
that. So don't you put that on me. But it would be, okay, we're going for a meal tonight. Right, okay, let's take our pads and we can do a plan. We can do a new 90-day plan for the business, and we can talk about marketing.
You
And
get so excited.
I would get
about it.
really fired up about that, but I'd be forgetting the kids are there, like thinking, like, Dad, I really don't want to do a 90-day plan, you know. It's like, but in my mind, I'm teaching them good things, and you know. Anyway, I digress a little bit, make a bit of light of it. But I wanted, when I sat down with Ben, our mentor, and we talked about the coaching practice and how we want to evolve it, it come to me that, you know, men, we do want to provide for our family. We do want good relationships. We do want to have fun times with our kids. We do want to have good networks around us and enjoy those networks. And we want to have fun in our lives. And we want to build a business that takes care of all of this. So we talk about work-life balance sometimes, but we really mean lifestyle, don't we? We see it all fitting in together. So your lifestyle is your business, it's your friends, it's your family, it's your fun, it's your income, it's your investments, it's your building wealth. It's all connected. It makes a lovely lifestyle. But people don't always know how to join the dots and get all of that. And we know how to do that. So for us, that's bread and butter. Yeah. So the group I put into place on Facebook was Be the Man, master the game. Yeah. So we treat life as a game. We want our wealth to be a game where we build it. We want our family to be a game where we have as much fun and connections as possible. We want our friends, we want it to be a game where we can challenge ourselves to go out and do things. We want our income to be a game. We want to increase our income on a monthly basis. We for our business. All of these things we put into a game. And when you do that, life and your lifestyle becomes really good because you start winning. You start winning the game. It's great to win that game. But it wasn't always like that for me. It was always business, 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 neglecting everything. I used to see business as the thing that solved everything. Get the business right, everything else will be fine. It won't.
No. And that brings me to the question that I wanted to ask you a while ago, but I didn't want to interrupt. You mentioned that you made this discovery that when you've got a coach or mentor, they focus on the business, but it's actually the business owner that needs work. And it was you in that situation. You had a coach who worked on the business, but it was you who needed fixing.
Yeah.
How did you come to that discovery?
Because fundamentally, business owners know their business, generally speaking. In my opinion and my experience, most business owners know the business better than the coaches. You know, I can go into a restaurant business, let's say, and the restaurateur will know that business better than I will. I've never owned a restaurant. Yeah, obviously he's going to know it better than I do, but he's not going to know how to deal with sometimes the business when he's got problems with his wife and they're not interacting, they're not talking.
Yeah,
not
but that's like
bed.
general. What was the situation with you to make that discovery? What made you discover that it's you who needs help and not your business?
Because I knew the business better than the coach, and the coach would talk to me about the business side of things, which was okay, and I would sit there thinking, well, I know this, I do, I get it, I understand it, I know exactly what you're saying, but my mind's on something else, and I really need to sort that out. I didn't know it at the time before I can sort this out, because if that gets sorted out, I've got the energy, I've got the enthusiasm, I can put all this in, I'm sleeping well at night. But my mind was always, I fix the business, that thing over there will just fix itself, because it's always money. Yeah, if I fix the business, I've got the money, I can give it to the wife and we can go out and have a lovely life, and she'll never want anything, want for anything, and everything's great. So I was focusing on the wrong things. I wasn't focusing on everything as a whole, just focusing on one area. You can't focus on one area. You have to focus on all of the things that makes us men and makes us have a successful lifestyle. And I just could see it through mentoring. And it wasn't just the one. I had a few mentors that it was always focusing on the one thing, but it's not fixing all of this stuff. So I could then tell, actually, you need to look at all of these areas, not just that. Then you need to pick out what is really the one area that's going to drive you forward and make sure everything works out great. And then everything else can be planned as well around that. But let's focus on one thing. And it might not be the business. It might not be the most important thing. Yeah, it might be you just don't have enough time with your kids, or your relationship with your kids is struggling so much you can't concentrate on business. Well, let's make sure that turns around. Let's make sure that is your main focus, and let's work on that, and then we can transition over to that. Because how much fun is your business going to be when you walk in because you've had a fantastic weekend with your kids and they feel loved and supported and happy? And I never did all of that. I just thought, well, I make loads of money in the business. Annabelle will be happy, can buy whatever she wants, and she can have whatever she wants. And she had no time with me because I was always in the business. So these are all the mistakes I talk about in the book. And these are all the lessons I give in the book of how not to go down that route.
And we both had a business coach, and you were driving him nuts so many times with the approach and stuff, but I don't want to really get into that. So when you made that discovery that it's not about the business coach is not going to fix things that need fixing. Yeah, you need to work on yourself. What did you do then?
Well, myself, I think what I actually did it with you. We coached each other, didn't we? And when we see the power of coaching, and when we see the power of helping each other and talking about other areas of our life that wasn't business related, we started to see improvements everywhere. When we was with the business coach, the only thing we talked about was business. That was it. And he never picked on the fact that actually it's not really the business, it's him. He's the problem. If he'd have picked up on that and had the experience to actually, no, we need to look at this as we do, we would have had a completely different relationship, and I probably wouldn't have drove him mad because I wouldn't have pushed back so much. So we ended that relationship, and when you and I started working together, and it was actually how do we take our lifestyle to another level? And the first realization was everything we've got is business. Everything we've got is business. There's nothing else. Let's take our focus away from that a little bit. Let's empower our staff a little bit more. And that caused a few problems, but we'll talk about that as well on another podcast. But let's let them have a bit more responsibility, and let's work on all of this stuff. And then we started to see our income go up. We started to see our investments go up. We started to see our relationship get better. We started to have more time with our kids. My relationship with Annabelle improved. Her coming over, it was so much more enjoyable because we was doing so much more than just thinking about work all the time. All I ever did was think about work.
I know.
All I ever did.
I know you would be awake at night, 2:00 in the morning, and you're running all these spreadsheets and scenarios in your head and thinking about tomorrow that might never happen and all the problems and all the issues. So it sounds like talking about things, unpicking things that need fixing. I don't like the phrase need fixing because I don't believe that anybody is broken and needs fixing. But just maybe becoming aware of the things that are not quite right. How did that change your life?
See, this is where you and I are a little bit different, aren't we? You're a much more softly for me. It doesn't need fixing. You're right.
You don't need fixing.
I'm a bit more like, you're fucking broken, and I'm going to sort you out, and I'm going to fix you.
No bullshit, huh?
No bullshit. It is, if I ain't working for you, it's broken. Sorry. But I'm going to fix it with you.
It's your thoughts that are broken. And when you can fix the thoughts, everything else is awesome.
This is your style, and I've got my style. My style is very direct. I work with men, and, I don't want to bullshit around. I don't want to tiptoe around them. I don't want to, worry about upsetting their feelings. No, fuck off. If something needs fixing, I'm going to fix it for you. And we'll do it together. So you got your style, I got my style. I'm a bit more direct. It's what makes it special, and it works. And and then there are times where I can work with someone and okay, maybe my style isn't working, and I can backtrack a little bit and use a bit of your style. And you probably never use my style because you wouldn't be as forthcoming as I am.
But my clients are not your clients.
Of course not. We work with people we like to work with, and people work with us because they like working with us. So I will attract people who want a little bit of maybe aggression, want a little bit of a kick in, want a little bit of honesty, and not airy fairy around what might need to be done to make you feel good. No, you can do it. This is what I've said you're going to do. Do it. And you see, and that's the other thing with coaching is that we talk about ourselves being coaches. Am I a coach? I maybe consider myself more of a mentor in many ways. Mention, I think we kind of call it, don't we? There's a little bit of coaching, a little bit of mentoring, because, I have been there, seen it and done it. And if I can see someone really making a mistake, am I going to sit there and think, I'll just let you make that mistake and, you'll learn from that? Or am I going to get in there and say, oh, that's fucking wrong. Think about this and think about that. And I know you don't agree with that, but we've all got our styles, haven't we? In the book, it's not a do this, do that book. It is about being vulnerable, and it is about being open. It is about honest. It's about being very honest with my mistakes and telling people what I did wrong and telling people how I turned it around. And I know you will say, oh, you didn't do anything wrong. You have to go on this journey.
This is meant to be the other way, I'm picking on you, not you picking on me.
I'm getting my own back here. But there's times for things, and there's times for honesty, and there's times for taking action. And sometimes things are fixed, and sometimes people are broken, and we need to help them fix themselves. And it's just a word. It's just a word. And there are lots of coaches who say, you're not broken. You are. Everything's within you, and I agree with them. I do. I get where they're saying from, but it's just a word. And if that word hits someone, and it's, I am broken, I need fixing, can you help me? That does the job for them, then it's worthwhile, it's good. So I'm honest, I'm direct, and that's how I kind of try to help people change their lives around and create fantastic lifestyles, improve their business, improve their income. I get them to identify what they need in life. I get them to influence their environment so it gives them what they need, and I help them build their income. The 3 eyes is what I call it. So with that, they then can take what I put into the coaching program and go off and not just focus on one area, but focus on everything and take their lives to another level. And hopefully the book will help many, many people to do that. And certainly if they're struggling with their mental health or problems, it will show them there's always a way out. I can do it, anyone can.
I think a lot of people will also relate to all the emotions that you write about in the book, especially at the time of the lockdowns and at the time when all the restrictions were in place and people have felt like they lost the freedom, businesses got shut, and there's just so much happened.
I think the time of the book is perfect, actually. I think it coming out now when things are getting harder for people. Prices of stuff is going up. It's hard. It's just hard, and it's only going to get harder. Interest rates are going up. It's a tough world we're entering, and people, if they're not prepared and if they haven't got help and they haven't thought about it, are going to suffer. They're really, really going to suffer. And I don't say that lightly. It's a horrible thing to have to say, but people are going to suffer, and it's only going to be the few that are really prepared for what's coming that actually thrive. The rest may survive at the best, and you don't want a life where you're just surviving. And by reading this book, shows that this man was down and out, and this man nearly had a heart attack, and this man was in hospital because of the stress he put him under. This man lost his marriage. I don't write about the amount of money I lost, but I lost way over £1 million through divorce and businesses and failures and stuff like that, way over. And if I can turn that around and come out of that, anyone can.
I'm a bit conscious of the time. Next question: who is the perfect reader that would benefit the most from reading your book?
I guess title of the book is Be the Man, and I guess it's more aimed at men, but it's a read for women as well. There's no reason why a woman can't read that book and take value from it, or at least buy it for their husband. If they've got a man who is like I was and won't talk, won't open up, hides everything, pretends everything's okay, but is secretly struggling, buy them the book. Give it to them, let them read it. And I think the ideal reader is a man with a business, with a family, who isn't maybe getting what they want from life, and there's areas that they want to improve on, but they don't really know where it is or how to improve on it. I think by reading this book, it will give you a good insight on what you can do to improve your life, improve your business, improve your relationship, improve your income, improve your wealth, all of these lovely things. And it is entertaining. It's not a boring book where
No.
you're going to pick it up. Oh God, this is a struggle. It's not a huge book. People should be able to read it reasonably quickly and then keep going back to the summaries and the lessons. And I think men with problems will really benefit from reading it.
The book is 100% authentic. It's about you being on that journey.
Yeah.
This is the last question.
Okay.
What kind of a man have you become?
I think I've become more honest with myself, more honest with people around me. I've become less worried, less stressed, less concerned about what other people think. I think I had the armor on for so many years. No one really saw me. They just saw this image of a successful businessman, and that's all I was, or certainly all I was seen as, even when I wasn't. And now I'm more open, I'm more honest, I'm more present. Still a work in progress. There's still times where my mind wanders, but I certainly notice things. I'm happier.
You've got memories.
I've got memories. I can remember things. I can remember so much, of things that went on, and back right in the book, I remembered a lot because it was bad, and I just remembered it because it was all bad. And I remembered the bad times so easily. They was ingrained in me because I was fighting so hard to pretend they wasn't there. But I didn't remember the good times because the good times was kind of made up in many ways just to mask the bad times. So now I remember the good and bad times, and there's more goods than bads, which is lovely. So I think I'm a more open and honest person. I'm getting back to how I used to be. I'm getting back to, before I had my business problems, having fun, enjoying myself. I started to reconnect with a few friends again and build on that side of things, which is good. Mine and your relationship has improved a hell of a lot. My relationship with the kids has improved a hell of a lot. The businesses are fine. They are what they are. And our coaching business is just kicking off and starting to do really well. Healthier, fitter, happier. What more can I say?
Last question. I've been saying it for the last three questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
You sort of mentioned about the improvements and stuff, but this transformational journey that you took, this discoveries, what impact does it have on your family and relationships?
I think when you have that moment, that
light bulb moment.
Yeah, I can see it from her point of view now. That's massive for you. I can talk about us. Yeah. When I didn't notice so much because all I noticed was what was the problem with the business. What are we going to do to improve the business? How much money we got in the business? How can I grow the business? That's all I noticed. Yeah. When I learned to actually listen and be present and hear you and listen to you, then that was huge because all of a sudden there's two people in the room, not just one. And yeah, and from your point of view and my point of view, it enabled us to grow together rather than just existing. I think it did exist for quite a while. We just existed where all my thoughts were on the business. And you would ask me how I am, and I would tell you how the business was. I would never ask you how you was. Yeah. Because I used to think you was fine. You was all smiling. She looks happy.
That's fine. Let's get back to business.
Back to business. And it was still I made the same mistakes with you when I first got with you as I did with my ex-wife, in expecting the business to solve everything. I went into exactly the same. As soon as I get this business that it runs itself and it produces X amount of money, everything's going to be fixed. That's why I had a business coach.
I'm so sick of this sentences. Everything is going to get fixed.
Everything's going to be fixed. Everything's going to be fine because the business is going to be the thing that solves everything. And I've just got to get it right. And I could spend
nearly
hours.
There. I used to say, I'm nearly there.
Nearly there.
This close.
Yeah. And it was so wrong. And it was just such an exhausting time because it just kept me up at night. Sometimes with excitement, sometimes with worry, sometimes with pain. But it was just that one thing. Now, it's not that important to me anymore. It's still important, but it's not that important in the context of everything. Everything is as important as each other. I've recognised that this whole circle of life that we take people around within our coaching program, every segment of it is just as important. And we've got to get it right in every area. And when we do, then we're free. And when you live your life free and you don't have to answer to anyone, you don't have any worries, you've got money, you've got great relationships, you've got everything you want, your lifestyle is just all singing, all dancing. You don't need any more.
So even though the book is called Be the Man, it's a fantastic read to men and women and the couples. Am I right?
Yeah, it's not just for men. I think men will probably predominantly be drawn to it, and that's fine. I'm okay with that because men is my client group, you know, and don't get me wrong. I'm going to be 100% cards on the table. One of the reasons why you write a book is you want to be known for being an expert in your area, and you want to be known for that because you want people to come to you and work with you. And I work with men, so I predominantly want more men to read it than women. But having said that, you found it a great read, and it wasn't just because you know me. I've sent it out to other women to read. They found it a great read, because I think from a woman's point of view as well, especially reading about a man that did become vulnerable and did open up and did openly talk about problems, is actually, from a woman's perspective, a really nice thing to actually read.
Yeah, from my point of view, I found it as an eye-opening. All these behaviors that used to present, I could see the reasons behind them, which I wouldn't think about, and stuff, which was really good. Last thing, how long until the book is out?
I don't know. The publisher said to me, I think it was Friday, that the lady that designs the back cover was on holiday. I think she's back today, so we should get a proof through for the back cover. They then said all they've got to do is get me to sign it off, send it over to me for one final read. So I'll enjoy reading it again. And then once I've said, yes, that is exactly how I want it, then it will go to print. And then I will physically be able to hold up a book and say, listen,
can't wait. I just can't wait.
I can't wait.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That's really, really good. Gosh, 47 minutes.
47 minutes talking about my book.
And we could go on and on and on and on. It's fascinating. Yeah. It is a really amazing trade, and I'm sure people who will buy it and read it will really enjoy it.
It will be on Amazon. It's not yet, but I'll post some links to it, and it will be called Be the Man. And you'll be able to order it off of Amazon. It'll be on Kindle and all of that. Maybe I'll even put it into an audio book one day. And,
nice. I asked you to do the chapters in audio to send me. Yeah. That sounds really nice. It's really lovely.
I honestly think, I'm very honest, I am. As soon as I read the first book I wrote, I was like, this is shit. This is crap. I was so honest, wasn't I? I'm not going to even try to sell this to somebody because I would feel embarrassed about it. But when I wrote the second book, the book that is going to come out, I generally think it's great. I generally think it's valuable to people. I generally think it can help people. I think anyone suffering with their mental health and problems will read that book and resonate with it 100%, and it will give them some really great lessons to take away and hopefully put into their life and help them change it around for the better. And that's what it's there for.
Yeah, and I've got a little message to my fellow women mates. If your men say that they want to do something and they wanted to do something for a really long time, support them to execute that wish and to do it, because it is amazing to see them going through the journey of accomplishing what they always wanted, but always had some kind of an excuse. And I love seeing the sparkle in your eyes when you talk about it, that smile, your face lights up, and you get emotional when you go through the stages and stuff. And I know you needed a push, because there was the time when you nearly lost a little bit of interest. It was just taking too long and you couldn't see that end goal that you had in mind, but now when we're just this close to getting it,
Yeah. What happens is you write the book and you give it to the publisher and you kind of forget about it a little bit,
Yeah.
and it takes a little while to come back, and it kind of just you lose a little bit of momentum
Mm.
maybe, and that may be what happened. And then I read it again, and it was like, oh, I really like it. I really
look
like
at
it.
the face. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I'm sure people will
Yeah.
really like it, and I hope so. I hope it's valuable, and I hope, it's a bit cliche, isn't it? But if it helps one person, then it's worthwhile. But obviously, I want it to help as many people as possible, and if it does, then I did a good thing.
Lovely. Thank you for telling us all about it.
Thank you very much for asking me.